Hello and welcome back to this episode of your Kingsport blog video update. I'm Jeff Fleming, Assistant City Manager for Development here in Kingsport. And as always, you can follow this information at KingsportBlogger.com. That's KingsportBlogger.com, where you can subscribe to follow by email, or you can just check it out at your leisure. Today we're going to go over some metrics, and I know that can be a little monotonous and boring, so bear with me, please. But over the past 4 years, it's election time, and a lot of folks kind of take a chance to look back and see where we have been and where we're going in the next 4 years. So I pulled some information on the leading economic indicators just to kind of take a look at what the census says about our city and where we stand right now. From 2009 to the most recently available data, the population increased 14.5%. So we have seen population growth. Now, granted, much of that's been through annexation. Employment, the unemployment rate for City of Kingsport residents only decreased 2.4%, and that's about twice what it has been in other areas or other cities in the region. So relatively speaking, we have made more improvement in our unemployment rate decreasing than our neighboring cities. Now, we still have a higher unemployment rate, so that is something that we certainly need to work on, but we have improved at a rate faster than some of our neighboring cities. Our labor force, which is those who are looking for work, increased by 6.9%. So you had more people looking for work, 1,340 people more than 4 years ago. The number of employed people increased by 9.9%. So you always want to see the employment increasing at a rate faster than those looking for work. So there were 1,720 more people employed now than there were in 2009. The number of unemployed decreased 7.9%. So of course you would expect to see that if that goes down, if employment goes up. On the income front, the median household income increased by 5%. Now, in the census definition of a household, that's anybody living together in a house. So it would be whether you're related to them or not is included in that number. So that increased 5%. The median family income increased 3%. Now, the census definition of family means that you are related by birth, marriage, or adoption. So if you are a family by that definition, your family income increased by 3%, and the per capita income increased by 2%. So the way they define per capita income is they take the total amount of income for the whole city and they divide it by the total population of every living person in the city, whether you're 1 year old or 18 years old or 65 years old. So the per capita income increased 2%. So the good news on the income front is that in every category we did increase. So that's a positive thing, particularly given some of the tough economic times that we've seen in the past few years nationally. The poverty rate for those 18 years and older increased by 1%. So we hate to see that number increase, but it did go up. Now you have to understand that poverty rate is not adjusted for regional variations in cost of living. So there is one poverty rate for the whole nation, and they apply it universally. So if you live in New York City, it's the same as if you live in San Francisco, as if you live in Kingsport, Tennessee. So keep in mind that the cost of living here in Kingsport is substantially less. So that tends to inflate the poverty rate numbers for more affordable places like ours. So looking up the cost of living for Kingsport, the overall for every category, it's 91% of the total national average. Food is 93, housing is 82. So housing is our most affordable product here. Utilities are 92% of the national average. Transportation, which would include gas, fuel, that sort of thing, would be 92%, and healthcare costs are 90% of the national average, and then miscellaneous costs, which would include clothing, restaurants, repairs, entertainment, and other services, would be 97% of the national average. And that makes sense because many of those prices aren't set here locally. They are set at national franchises, and they charge pretty much a similar rate no matter where you are. In the age category, our population 65 and over, which would be the retiree group, increased by 1%. Our population 20 to 24, which is college age, decreased 1%. Now, part of the question that comes up there is we see a lot of folks that are taking classes downtown, but you have to understand this metric I'm talking about is only city residents. So if you live, 1 inch outside the city limits, whether that's, in Sullivan Gardens or Bloomingdale or even Church Hill, you're not counted in this number. So there are people that, of course, come in to take classes in downtown Kingsport that don't actually live here. So again, I'm just reporting who actually lives in Kingsport. So that's a number we need to work on. Our population ages 25 to 34, which we've heard a lot about young professionals recently. That category decreased 2%. So that is definitely something that we need to focus on locally, and the Board of Mayor and Aldermen and the Chamber of Commerce are currently discussing the best way to manage that recruiting more young professionals to live inside the city of Kingsport. School enrollment, again, this is according to the Census Bureau information. Population 3 years and over enrolled in school of some sort increased by 10%. Now that is not a Kingsport City Schools number, that is not a Sullivan County Schools number. That just means that there are that many school-age children living inside the city limits of Kingsport, and they can choose to go a variety of different places to school, public and private. So that number did increase, though, by 10%. Educational attainment, bachelor's degree or higher, increased by 1%, so that's certainly a positive metric, and associate's degrees decreased by 1%. So we had been on a track to see more and more associate's degrees here locally, but now the bachelor's degree or higher has begun to increase. So again, educational attainment is critical, and that is certainly a metric that we can all be proud of, because we have made significant headway in the Kingsport area with our higher education initiatives over the past few years. Finally, it's our quarterly update on Move to Kingsport, who's moving here from outside the area. The fiscal year to date. Now understand that the city does a fiscal year as opposed to a calendar year. So our fiscal year runs from July 1st of one year to June 30th of the next year. So all of our budgetary discussions take place with a fiscal year status. So during the July 2012 through March 31st of 2013 time period, third quarter to date, there were 1,134 new families in Kingsport, and 1,374 existing Kingsport residents moved to a new location within the Kingsport area. So the net, because you do have people that move away and you have people that move to, the net difference over the 7 years now that Move to Kingsport has been in existence is positive 582. So we've seen a net positive of 582. Now taking the University of North Carolina at Wilmington's economic impact number of $25,000 per person times the census average of 2.3 people per family times 582, which is our net difference, you get $33.4 million in economic impact from consumer expenditures from that group. So you've heard me say it many times in the past. Not too hot, not too cold, just right. We don't want to be booming so fast that we cause traffic breakdowns or we strain our infrastructure, but we don't want to be shrinking either. So that positive 582, I would consider is a very solid 1% growth rate, which is a good rate. We could stand to see some more and not strain our infrastructure as well. So of those 1,134 new families, we had 19% of them that moved into new construction, but 81% moved into existing structures. So I think a lot of folks assume that if you move to the area that you're moving to a new home. What we're actually finding is that there is a shortage of new homes available in Kingsport. When we talked to a recent home builders analyst out of Knoxville, he was saying that when you start to see pre-sold homes pop up in the market, so in other words, people have already committed to buy the house before it's even built, then your market has truly arrived back into the strong status. And I was talking with the folks at the Edinburgh group recently, and the last count I had was they had 14 pre-sold homes, and that they couldn't build them, fast enough for people to occupy them. So again, as we continue to see employment increase, we continue to see people move to the area, we're going to have a housing product for them to purchase. So our home builders are doing everything they can. Our lending institutions are doing everything they can within the reason of the current regulatory environment, and we need to work on that, though. So we're hoping to provide more options for people to live in the future. New residential construction this fiscal year to date compared to the prior fiscal years to date is up 64%. So we have seen more activity recently than we have in a long time. So that is certainly an indication that our local economy is moving out of that downturn that we've all been experiencing recently. Out of state relocations to Kingsport, are up 8%. So we've seen more out-of-state activity. This fiscal year to date, 347 families have moved from 33 states. So again, we track that through the water taps. If you move to our area and you turn on your water, we know where you came from. We have your driver's license information, and we just look at that information in aggregate. We don't try to violate anybody's privacy, but we do like to track where people are coming from. Of course, Virginia, being so close, is our #1 state. There were 115 of those 347 from Virginia. But #2 is Florida, followed by North Carolina, South Carolina, California, Maryland, Texas, Ohio, Kentucky, Georgia, and Illinois. So again, it's a very diverse group that is spread around the country. That's your quick update on Kingsport blog video update. Again, if you'd like to follow this information, receive it in your email box, you can go to KingsportBlogger.com and look for the place to follow by email. Thank you very much.